Yo, what is going on, beautiful people? We are back with another episode of Respect the Game podcast. As always, we do not take for granted y'all taking your time out y'all busy schedules to listen to us, whether you at the crib, whether you're watching us on YouTube, whether you're watching us on your way to work, whatever you got going on. Thank y'all for tuning in. My name is Edward, named after my father. Salute to my mama for naming me after a trilogy. Shout outs to my granny too. Please follow at EMAX Stats for all your up-to-date high school, college, and professional sports coverage, and your Olympic coverage as well, as we are now in the thick of things with the Olympics going on. And yeah, as always, what is a podcast without your dogs?
Hey, man. Soundheart is a charismatic hood excellence at its finest. That's Twitter, SoundCloud, Instagram, Cash App, wherever you can get to, man. Yeah.
It is for show the host with the most that blows the most smoke, Black Peace, the rap plug, the hip hop plug. You already know. Check me out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your dope ass podcast from. Let's run it.
What's going on, everyone? This is Coach Johnson. I am the husband of Jordan. I am the father of Harper and Deuce. I am here to bring the controversy and to help you reason out your thoughts just a little bit differently. And let's get into it.
Good afternoon, beautiful people. I'm the one and only Sedacious Xavier Miles. And on behalf of me and my niggas, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. And we love you. And we do it for you. We do it a little bit for ourselves, but the majority is for you. So stay tuned.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm doing this shit for myself. Y'all niggas just extra. I fuck with y'all, though. Like, sure.
Getting straight to it, Darnell, Black Peace, what did you respect or not respect about the game this week?
R.I.P. Pop Smoke, man. I respect for sure, Pop Smoke. My opinion, the king of popular drill music in New York. He was well on his way. He had too many, avenues of friendship and everything, and it sucks. The last album was called, if I'm not mistaken, it's called Fate. And this album, what I liked about it, this is the second posthumous album. And at the end of the day, they did it two different styles. They did one that was like, okay, it was an album that was already supposed to be done. And this was actually more of a memorial of an album in its own way. You do get that vibe of missing him rather than just listening to an album, which actually puts you in that place of like, okay, this is actually to mourn him rather than just, it's a mourn/celebrate album rather than an incomplete album. This was, a couple weeks, maybe months before he was in the hip hop game assassinated. And man, it was fire, dude. It just kind of make you shake your head the whole time you're listening to it. Like, this is what we lost. You know what I'm saying? It happens too common, happens too often, and they get lost to the grave of the cage. And it's like, but back to the positive note, I do respect that it was fucking fire, man. There's not a track that you really want to skip. If you do, you're missing out. To me, it is indeed the late summer album for sure.
Right on, man. Salute to Pop Smoke. I personally have not yet listened to the album, but I definitely intend to. So appreciate you Black Peace, putting us up on game on that. Sean is a real quick shout out the Houston artist that you was talking about before we started the podcast, so we can have you on record giving him his credit.
Hey, man, shout out to Jairmy Gas Gang, representing the East, man. He the next big shit coming out of Houston. Co-signed by Lil Baby a couple years back. Just dropped a mixtape featuring ESTG, upcoming rapper from Louisville, who also played linebacker at SFA. Fun fact. Also has features from Big 30, artist from Memphis that is notorious for rapping with Pooh Shiesty, Free Shiesty, and then countless of other features of some mainstream artists today. But yeah, man, you heard it here. Probably not even first, but definitely the next big thing coming out of Houston in regards to that young generation popping off. So shout out to
Sean Hart. You dropped some big names on that player. ESG, if I'm not mistaken, has the number one album on Apple Music right now. And then of course, Pooh Shiesty. Damn, that's
he ain't got Shiesty on there, but he does have Big 30, and he also has 42 Doug on the album as well. So it's some heavy hitters on there that's making a splash in today's music. So shout out to Lil Jairmy for sure. But one thing I do respect, or I'm respecting about the game this week, is I'm gonna respect our fellow allies within the UN. That's the United Nations, for our people that don't keep up with world events, and that would be Jairmy, France. Man, I'm gonna respect France, man, because they beat the USA, man, in our first game that really counted, man. And Evan Fournier had a sound clip, and he summarized it best, man. Individually, they're way better than us, but as a team, they can be beat, they can be had, and it definitely went to show, our chemistry was definitely lacking, as opposed to maybe, certain countries that have, been used to playing with each other for longer, especially due to the fact that COVID has extended the season. 9 times out of 10, we would have already been practicing probably maybe a month and a half in advance if this was under regular circumstances. But hey, man, a L is a L nonetheless. And, USA, we got to tighten up.
They are playing with a lot of leaders on the USA team. There are not a lot of role players on that USA team, even though they're great players.
I ain't trying to hear that, man. In 2010, 2012, we was rolling out some shit, Pat.
But look at the players that were there. They were winners, but yet role player-esque, willing to do what they...
sir. Carmelo Anthony, Chris Paul, Kobe Bryant, LeBron
absolutely.
James,
Look at what you just said. Look at the people that you said and the style of play they played. More score-esque, more...
They're just players who bought into a role and bought into, hey, I got to take a step back. I can't be, quote unquote, the man on this team. The only person who could probably assume the alpha dog on that team is probably one Kobe Bean, Bryant, rest his soul, and probably LeBron James, bro. Those are the probably only 2 people that, can really assume that position as a true alpha amongst other alphas. So I don't want to hear the excuse that, because they got a lot of big names that people aren't buying into a role. I think it's more so, and it's also come out that they aren't really sold on Popovich's Spurs system that he's trying to implement on Team USA. Other players think there's another style and a better way to kind of play basketball. But shout out to France, though. I don't even want to make this about the United States. We got beat, bro. So shout out to France. I'm respecting them.
Bro, but it is. It's that Popovich shit is fucking old. Get it the fuck out of here. Get us a young black coach who would have put this team together better. God damn.
Well, Greg Popovich isn't over scouting, brother, so he don't really have a huge say-so in who joins the team, though I'm pretty sure he has some input. But I think more so Jerry Colangelo, one of the oldest tenured front office members of Team USA, is, I think, a more culpable candidate to kind of place some blame on. But nonetheless, I respect Jerry Colangelo, and hopefully we still win the goal. I'm still, I am a betting man. If I were to put some money on it, I still would have USA to win. But, we probably going to have to win out from here in order to, to get the goal. So we got to tighten up. 2 lose.
One of the thoughts, this isn't necessarily really about the X's and O's and Olympics, but one of the thoughts that I had earlier today and watching the Olympics and seeing that they lost and so on and so forth is that how, in the regular, like outside of sports, you have your career day, you have your job fairs, you have your networking events that you go to meet people, see if you can get any job leads. I was looking at the Olympics, especially right now, considering the way the league is, as this like being like one big like networking event for like certain players to like see who they cool with, see who they mesh with, see who they could kind of build a rapport with, and while they're out in Tokyo to be able to build that bond. So when they come back over the States, it's like, hey, what's your contract? Like, shit, I'm thinking about getting traded. What you think going on over there? So you look at players obviously like Dame, you look at, players obviously here in his prime, but what's left on his contract with somebody like Devin Booker, you got Jason Tatum. Like, how long is he gonna be with the Celtics and stuff like that? So I'm just curious.
He just re-signed. He just signed the extension.
I mean, Dame did too, not too long ago. You know what I'm saying?
Well, nah, Jason Tatum was actually like last year. Dame signed the extension, I think, going on 3 years ago now. But yeah, man, this already came out that Draymond Green has been heavily recruiting for the Warriors since he's
Draymond's there.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I just want you gotta go.
I also heard from a little bird that the Warriors were heavily targeting Damian Lillard. How unfair would that be? I don't even know how that would. Are we moving Steph to the 2? Or are we putting Damian at the 2 and putting Clay at the 3? It don't even matter at that point.
I definitely see them. I ain't gonna even go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, I don't even want to entertain it. Man. That should be cheating. If Adam Silver let that shit happen, he wrong.
I'm not gonna go down there.
Dead wrong.
What'd you say, Sedacious?
Is Lakers a bust?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Get somebody, because I'm sick of Dennis Shudo, 100 million ass, man. You don't deserve that shit, bro. So,
Coach Johnson, the floor is yours, bro. Don't be all day, bro, because I know you're ready to be long-winded.
Well, I'm gonna try to get through this very as quickly as I possibly can. So recently, Space Jam 2 has come out, and Space Jam. There's the Toon Squad, right? And I wanted to put together a squad of my own, and what this came from was, Black folks have embraced a nasty word and made it a term of endearment, right? The N-word. And there is another subgroup of Black folks that I am a part of, and they are constantly getting berated with a particular word that is a nasty word, a word to use to try to inflict pain upon them. And I feel like, hey, you know what? We might as well embrace it. We might as well embrace it and call it our own. And so I'm going to put together a Coon squad. I am trying out for it. Hopefully I will be on it one day.
Hey, bro, you already made it.
I haven't made it yet. This squad is jam-packed with elite talent.
Overqualified.
This squad is this squad I put together has elite talent on it, and so I'm just going to go over who has made the squad, right? So as far as our coaches, right? Actually, let me kind of just give a little definition of what I'm thinking about as Coon. I'm thinking of it as an acronym, right? Where the C is either one of these four things, right? Either somebody who's a conservative Christian, they're conservative politically, they're a capitalist, or they're just basically competent, right? So that would be the C. The O, both O's are, either they're outcome focused and they're operationally inclined. And then the N, they're Negro, okay? In the old sense of the word. Basically, they are against the liberal leftist push or whatever they're trying to push for Black folks. And they try to hold Black people accountable for their successes and failures, right? So people who are coaching the team, the head coach is Professor Glenn Lowry, formerly of Harvard and Boston University and Brown. His assistant is John McWhorter, also a professor. And Pastor Bodie Bacham is assistant, just came out with a book against critical race theory and how it got into the church. He's definitely coaching the team there, right? Some of the bench players I have, I'm gonna get to the starters. Some of the bench players I have an old head on the team that's kind of like a player coach. Ace Boone Coon, Larry Elder, running for governor in California. He is definitely on the squad. I got Sonny Johnson, queen of conscious conservatism, on the team. Professor Roland Fryer of Harvard is on the team. Shamika Michelle and Wilford Rowley of Cut the Bull podcast, they're on the team. King Randall is on the team. And the sixth man, didn't quite make the starter list, is Brandon Tatum. Right? All right, now we're going to get to our starters. Handling the rock at the point, Candace Owens. handling the rock at the point, Candace Owens, right? The 2 guard, I got Hotep Jesus, right? And then at the small forward at the 3, I got Senator Tim Scott. He definitely had to be there. And then number 4, the power forward. Actually, excuse me, where are my manners? The fragrance of the evening, right? We got Glade Passion Fruit for the candle of the evening. The fragrance of the evening, we got Sauvage Dior. Number 4 at the power forward, we have Kevin Samuels. And then the big man handling everything down in the paint, Jason Whitlock. That is the starting 5 of the Coon squad.
Fuck.
Ooh, you putting Whit up there, huh?
Yes, Jason Whitlock is holding it down in the paint. That is the Coon squad right there. I have a couple Hall of Famers that you know, they just are in the Hall of Fame, the Coon Hall of Fame. Frederick Douglass is the first one. I don't know if people recognize that Frederick Douglass is not really liked by the left and many of the black elites because when they start to read him, they figure, oh snap, this guy was a conservative. He liked the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. They tried to tear his statue down during the 1619 riots. Shout out to Nicole Hannah-Jones. Booker T. Washington's in the Hall of Fame. Thomas Sowell's in the Hall of Fame. And Clarence Thomas is in the Hall of Fame for obvious reasons. Somebody who soon will be in the Hall of Fame. I know folks will think I'm crazy right now, but watch 10, 15 years down the line, Malcolm X will soon be in the Coon Hall of Fame.
Wow. Wow. To that, I want to bring up a paraphrased quote by the late first president ever of this now business, but that was incorporated in the late 1800s, that we call America, because America is a big business now. I don't know if people know. But it did get incorporated. That's why they're able to sell USA merch. Who is ensuing the profits of that? Story for another day. But George Washington had a very particular idea that I think should have been upheld. But he was the first president, literally and figuratively, that stated there does not need to be a left party or a right party. There just needs to be, you know, America as a whole. So he was not for dividing us up into these imaginary binary lines that get held down by either value or, you know, political or economic focus at the time. I don't think we should be bound by that and categorized as such, because it's just a divisive tool at the end of the day that just separates the people from the greater goal and the greater good, right? Which is, we know there are essential things that are morally right and morally wrong that I believe a majority of people can agree on. And we kind of need to set some value standards and laws in place that more so don't speak to the left or the right, so to speak, but more so speak to everyone's ideals and everyone's preference. So I think we did something horribly wrong, but it's all a part of the greater plan, you know, but I just don't think we ever should even went to dividing the country into parties, so to speak, because again, it's just divisive and it just tears apart the people, and it makes it harder for us to stand together when there are essential issues that go far past left or right, and they more so go down the path of, hey, what's right and just what isn't wrong, or what's right and what is wrong. So, but hey, we already here. So I mean, probably damn if we do, damn if we don't. But hey, man, if I had to categorize myself, I'm not really a conservative or a liberal. I'm more so probably a conservative liberal, to be quite honest. But hey, who am I? But yet a man.
I love it. I think it was well put together. Kudos.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
And I couldn't agree. The only thing I disagreed with was 15 years, bro. It might be 20, 30 years down the line before they get.
I thought the nigga was agreeing with me, but man.
You talking about Malcolm X?
Yeah.
Talking about Malcolm X thing. The reason I said that is because so no one would have thought that during, so last summer, they had all the riots or whatever, and the statues were being pulled down. Now people were pulling down a lot of the Confederate statues that were in the South, right? But then they started pulling down those Washington statues, Lincoln statues, and then Frederick Douglass came down, and people were like, "What? Who would pull down Frederick Douglass statue?" And I'm like, "Hey, they probably started reading a little bit and realized that, there are certain ideas that the folks who are pulling out statues, they don't agree with that Frederick, because he sounds a lot like what I say today, right?" And so when people read the totality of Malcolm X, right? Yes, Malcolm X was not afraid to talk about the white devil, but he had a very pull yourself up by your own bootstraps type mentality when it came to black folks, right? And so that mentality there, someone like Ibram X. Kendi would say that mentality in itself is racist. And so once people get a hold of it a little bit, they'll say, "Hey, look, we got to get rid of him. We can't have him in the pantheon." So,
Yeah, we're gonna see, bro. The whole nation.
I think that's a toxic perspective, because it puts on the assumptive hat that black people are looking for a handout, and I don't think that's
no, not. So I hate to cut you off, Shahar, but my gripe is not with black people as a whole. My gripe is with black elites, and mainly black leftist elites who assume to speak for all black folks. And anyone who is like myself, or like any of the gentlemen or ladies that I named on the Coon squad, their only retort is to call them or us coons, because we don't go along with their prescription for black folks. Because they don't go along, because they don't like that we say, "Hey, wait, hold up. We have agency too. We have things that we can do for ourselves. We don't necessarily need to go crying to the white man all the time," right? And so we get termed coon, right? So my
I don't think that's why. Because one would argue.
Well, whenever I or they speak the way we do, that's what comes out. But go ahead.
But I share those sentiments, because I too believe it's things that we can individually do ourselves. I'm not looking for a handout from the government or the white man, so to speak, quote unquote. I definitely think it's tools in place right now that I don't think the playing field is all the way even. And quite frankly, I don't think it'll ever be all the way even, because it's just not the way the game's designed. But I do believe in destiny, and I'm a Christian man, and I believe we are a part of those chosen people, not even saying by skin color, but just us being some of the true Hebrew, of that Bible descendant, those descendants of Abraham. And with that being said, I do think it's things in place that will help us get to where we eventually want to be, right? And that's just financially free, and having institutions and mechanisms in place that more so help our people, as opposed to continue the status quo and deteriorating us, right? So I believe it's values that can be taken from the left and right, which is why I paraphrase the great George Washington. I don't even want to call dude great, because he was a slave master as well. So great in whatever right that you deem is great. But, I just think, it's valuable things that both parties hold near and dear, that can both be used within a unified fashion that can elevate us to where we want to be. But again, this country is run off division. They get paid to, have divisive mechanisms in place that more so keep people divided and don't, encourage togetherness and camaraderie to come together. So
divide and conquer.
Exactly, man. So I charge you with this, Coach. I know you are, you're right wing, you're diehard right, but I would encourage you to look past the left and the right but more so look to what is right ultimately for both parties involved. And just as people, and since we speaking on POC, right, people of color, I think it's more so things that we can take from both stances and both perspectives that can both elevate and have a conversation at a place to where, hey, I don't think this is a conservative conversation or a liberal conversation. I think this is a humanistic conversation that requires an elevating of a certain ilk of people. Mm-hmm. So I just charge us to kind of come at it with that type of energy.
Edward, if you don't mind, I'll just respond to that real quick, then we can move on. I'm 100% with you, Sean Hard. I don't think you were here for the pod that we did right after the 4th of July, where I made a plea to most of the Black leftists that try to shun the Independence Day and patriotism. And I'm like, hey, you don't want to leave the patriotism or the country itself to only MAGA folks, right? But my plea there is this. I understand. I mean, I'm always going to be conservative. That's just how I'm built. There's a lot of psychology in that. That's just how I'm built. But I understand I have blind spots, and I understand that my brothers and sisters who are who more left leaning thinking, they have things that they see that I won't see, and we don't both need each other. But too often, right? I mean that I do actually think that, Edward. I know it might not seem like that, but I do actually think that. Most often, though, the people who get shunned out of proper Black circles, right, are folks who think like me. The folks who think like, who are more left leaning in their thinking and shout that out, they don't get kicked out of proper Black society, right? It's the folks who think like me. We're the ones who get shunned off and get called coons, right? So I'm like, hey, we might as well just take it as a pride of banner. But I think that we do both need each other, right? As a community, we do all need to come together and figure out, hey, who has, because we're going to define right what you're saying. Hey, think about what's right. We're going to define what's right differently. That it is what it is. But we both need to come together to try to bring together the best possible solutions, right? And too often, the folks who think like me, who are on my side, get shunned to the side, right? And so that's all I'm saying. So I'm trying to invite us back in by just taking pride in this. So hey, you know what? It is what it is. You can insult us however you want to, but we're going to wear it with pride, and we're still going to come to the table.
All right, gentlemen. Well put. I think y'all would probably say I'm not giving y'all credit, but I think both of you spoke very articulate, and even though I guess it's like a debate, so to speak, or just different points of view.
Niggas ain't debate; they agree.
We agree.
That's what it is.
We agree on a lot of this.
Well, fans, cherish this moment. All right, man. So moving on. So we've talked about, and this is a slippery slope, I guess, of a conversation that we may be having. But we talked about the appropriate blame percentage, right? When we're talking about appropriate blame percentage when, in sports in general.
Appropriate blame rate.
APR, appropriate blame rating. All right. So obviously we're into a space now where mental health and talking about it isn't a taboo situation anymore. Whether athlete or not, people are feeling more comfortable to speak about it out in the open, out in the public, and and push and encourage therapy, and just speaking, taking mental health days from work for whatever reason it may be. And recently, we just had today, not even recently, today as we're recording this, Simone Biles opted out of her Olympic event. Quote saying, physically, I am good. I am in shape. Emotionally, that varies on the time and moment. So she does an Olympic stunt, jumps in the air, whatever. She doesn't quite stick her landing as clean as you would hope for us or expect Simone Biles to do that. So it kind of stumbled or whatever, and immediately afterwards, she walks off, goes to her team, talks to her coaches, and says, "Hey, I don't really want to compete anymore." The reports would say, "Hey, she's been ruled out because of a medical issue." Now, if you want to deem a mental health, a variation of like a medical issue, then so be it. But Simone Biles herself is saying she is physically in shape and in condition. It's more so like a mental thing. Mentally, she isn't there. And she also had the quote afterwards saying, "Coming here to the Olympics and being the head star of the Olympics is not an easy feat. So we're just trying to take it one day at a time, and we'll see." And so on top of, like I said, that Olympic stunt that she had, that she didn't land as clean, she had received like the lowest score she's ever been given for like an Olympic stunt. And so in these situations, right, when a player doesn't, I guess, perform or do as they, as good as they would want to, obviously there's like media scrutiny that may come with it, but not even scrutiny, just, disappointing fans or whatever the case might be. And so, and when those players or athletes don't perform at whatever expected level, when they say, "Hey, the reason for my performance is because of my mental health," it comes off as like a blanketed statement. Basically, through my interpretation, they're like, "Hey, well, it's a mental health issue that they're dealing with as to why they're not performing. So therefore, like, leave them alone and let them be, and let that be whatever the case may be." So with, I'll read this quote just for full proper context, given both sides as we take pride in. So before the Olympics, not before the Olympics, but after the prelim competitions yesterday, Simone Biles also posted on Instagram, "It wasn't an easy day or my best, but I got through it. I truly do feel like I have the weight of the world on my shoulders at times. I know I brush it off and make it seem like pressure doesn't affect me, but damn, sometimes it's hard. Ha 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 ha. The Olympics is no joke, but I'm happy my family was able to be with me virtually. They mean the world to me." So again, she opted, after not having a clean landing or with one of her Olympic stunts, she took herself out of the finals, and they were in the finals, and they ended up only winning silver. And she basically just credited that to like her mental not completely being there. One would argue that we're not even qualified because we don't compete at the level that they compete at. But like, is it ever okay? Should we always just like forego that if a player says it's a mental health issue, or should we try to sift that and vet that to see? Because I was having this conversation with my girl, and it's like everybody's interpretation of like mental health is different, right? One may say mental health is only what you deal with outside of sports. If you got something going on with your family or your kids or whatever the case may be, once you step into that arena where you're expected to perform and what you train at religiously, and you're deemed an Olympian and a professional, like whatever happens inside that, like there's a difference between like that being like a mental hurdle, and also you just like struggling with your confidence based off whatever you have going on. So talk about an appropriate blame rating. Like, is there any like appropriate blame rating that should, obviously for the podcast, because I know everybody else in the world could probably care less about our makeup rating, but like, is there like an appropriate blame rating that players should be given grace on as it relates to their mental health when it comes out that they haven't performed as they would have, as high or as great as they would have hoped?
I'll go ahead. I'll start with the fire, and y'all can clean it up. I've said this before in this pod. it is the athlete's job to become mentally prepared at whatever level of their mental health is, right? Is their job to become to get mentally prepared to perform at no matter what level. Okay. This book really, it's all about it. Right? Part 1 or 2, you have to be mentally ready to perform, right? There's a reason. Look, we all had this happen to us. Whether it was Pop Warner, Little League, youth track, whatever it was, and we were playing it, and before the game or before our race, and we would be goofing around, and the coach came by and said, "Hey, you need to get your mind right. Stop fooling around. You need to get your mind right," because we were taught at a young age that there was a mental aspect to the sport, that we had to be able to mentally perform as well as physically perform. Okay, it is the job of the athlete to be able to do that. Now, her situation, it sounds like a part of her being able to be mentally prepared is having family around, right? So I'll give her a little more sympathy. Go ahead.
So just adding more meat to the potato, because I feel like that was going to come up, right? So part of that being having family around, right? So recently, WNBA player Elizabeth Cambridge, forgive me, I want to say Cambridge, but there's no R in that. But Elizabeth Cambridge, from the Las Vegas Aces, before the Olympics even like really got going, she had opted out, basically saying no family, no friends, no fans, no support system outside of my team. It's honestly terrifying for me. The past month, I have been having panic attacks, not sleeping, and not eating. Anyone that knows me knows one of my biggest dreams is winning an Olympic gold medal with the Opals. Every athlete competing in the Olympic Games should be at their mental and physical peak. And at the moment, I'm a long way from where I want and need to be. It's no secret that in the past, I've struggled with my mental health. So her, way before she even got to the Olympics, basically like, kind of, I don't want to go through that whole WNBA bubble again, no family, no friends around. I don't want to go back through that, having to go to the Tokyo Olympics. And so, yeah, as you were touching on
I have more sympathy for her because to me, foolishly, the Olympics is making them perform without family and friends there and fans there. But still, it is the athlete's job to be physically and mentally prepared. If we were watching football or basketball and after the game, somebody played crappy and they blamed it on a physical injury, we would say, "Shut up, you're making excuses." All of us would say that. We have been trained to say that. This is the same thing. We can't treat it differently. There are so many resources out there to help these athletes become mentally prepared. If they don't do what is required for them to get mentally prepared, this is a stance we have to take. If not, everybody's always going to have a mental excuse. So if we don't take this stance right here and say, "Hey, you have the resources, get there. If you can't get there, do like this lady say, "Hey, I can't perform. I'm not ready to perform. I can't perform." Okay, that's fine. But it is your job to become mentally prepared. Go ahead.
So my biggest gripe is I don't want to come across as if I'm like knocking that mental health isn't a genuine excuse or whatever. My biggest thing is just like, it's probably not my job to try to like decipher like, is it truly mental health, like from an athlete to athlete base? Because like even with like last year in the bubble when like Paul George was like turned into like pandemic P, and it's just like, bro, like you're underperforming right now. But for him, it was mental health. This bubble got me thrown off, and it's just like, okay, we're going to respect that. Then Naomi Osaka, she had, her spill with the Wimbledon. Before she even got to the tournament, she was just like, yo, right now, mentally, like, I just want to be able to play and not have to worry about media. And it was like, and she said that before she even got there, she still tried to test the waters and see if she could make it through and continue to compete, but not do media. She was getting fined too much attention. And she's just like, all right, I'm out. and she's been out since June, and now she's come back in the Olympics playing for Team Japan. Made it to the third round, lost to a woman from the Czech Republic. But before going into in the third round, and even before starting in the Olympics, she said, "Hey, I'm feeling happy again. Like mentally, I'm back on point." You know what I'm saying? And so she just lost. And I'm not saying that she would, but what if she were to say something about her mental health again? You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, it may not be our job to even try to decipher, but like, how can we properly evaluate if an athlete is like genuinely going through something mentally, to whatever discretion that may be, and for the athletes who are really bullshitting or may have a lack of confidence and they're using mental health as an excuse? You know what I'm saying? Like, one last thing is, though, like, granted, it's nowhere near the NBA or whatever the case may be, but I remember in high school playing basketball with a girl. Well, she broke up with me like not too long before I had a game, and like I was all fucked up. Like, coaches like literally like, "Yo, what's going on with you, bro? Like, we need you. Like, you ain't yourself." Like, is that a mental health problem that I was having? Because like I was mentally fucked up because like I had just broke up with a girl. You know what I'm saying? Could I if it was another athlete at the pro level, could they go through that same situation and be like, it's mental health? You know what I'm saying? But it's like, is it mental health, or is it just like you just out of it right now because like, your girl just left? You know what I'm saying?
Things that go into that, bro. But the different things like maturity, age, your upbringing, and people like to ignore that, but these are just facts. You know, these are things that are just like, come on, man. Like, just like you said, I just seen a post last week of her with her boyfriend, and it was like, as soon as this stuff started, you start talking about it, I was like, honestly, sad as it may be, this is still a young lady, you know, growing up. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if it was like, you know, maybe a boyfriend, maybe it was a family member situation. Maybe it could have been a very strong argument that could throw some shit off. But at the end of the day, like, mental illness does happen. And it's just like, it's different factors that you can't call. And at the end of the day, integrity is a motherfucker, man. Like, you know, so, you know, it's hard to decipher the real from the fake. But at the end of the day, I respect the person that will cop out beforehand rather than try to do a playoff P, which is do it and then make the excuse of, oh, it was because my mental. No, check yourself out before, because at the end of the day, you knew before your basketball game that you was out. You knew you was out. You know what I'm saying? There was no word about it. If someone said, hey, man, you want to play? Not really. Yep, that's how you felt. But at the end of the day, like, now that it's over, you try to tell coach that. Coach like, bullshit. I ain't, nah.
Do you want to go, Izzo?
I think there's no set parameters in place to really truly judge it for what the athlete may or may not be going through. So I think it's unfair for us to kind of pass judgment. That was our job, right? Holding a podcast to talk about it. But I mean, who's to say mentally that, you know, at that moment it was just the precipice or the breaking point or the climax to where, hey, you know, that's the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. You know what I mean? So I just think, man, it's just a tough pill to swallow in regards to being able to judge or gauge somebody. And I wouldn't even dare say that, you know, that they're faking, because, I mean, for various reasons. I mean, the people that do struggle with mental health, some people don't ever get the proper treatment that they need, and that has resulted into people, you know, taking their own lives. And who's to say that somebody isn't on the edge of that? Now, granted, it's different levels and severity of mental health, but to say that somebody, if they were forced to go through it, that may not be a secondary option for them, or maybe a first option. So I think it's a dangerous slope that you get into if you do, you know, decide that, hey, you know, hey, fuck you, you lying, push through it. You know what I mean? Because you start going down the rabbit hole of, well, if they lying, then, you know, and who can deem it and say that you're not dealing with anything? So, I mean, you kind of got to take them at face value, and that's the world we live in now. Mental health has been brought to the forefront. It can no longer be ignored as, hey, you know, suck it up, you know, get through it. We got a game to play. mental health, as Edward pointed out, with him going through a breakup in high school, and high school, we emotional as kids, and we've all been in those situations to where we've had a high school relationship that meant the world to us at the time, right? And it's like you didn't see yourself with nobody else but that person, and then reality set in. You guys grow a little more, you get older, and your interests change, and y'all just grow apart and y'all break up. Life, right? Some people are more equipped to deal with that than others. Who's to say that person wasn't there, that other person's whole world? I know instances where couples in high school have had the privilege of living together because the other's family wasn't providing the essential things that they needed at home. So it's a lot of different variables that compass to it. So I just think from a broad standpoint that we need to be respecting the game when it comes to people's chicken, like Marshawn Lynch would say. Respect and check on your chicken, keep your shit right, man, because you only get one mind, man. And the hell with what the media say or what a Coach Johnson as person say. No offense, Coach, but people that share your sense. Who's to say that those people can go to hell, and you got to think about you first, because at the very first and at the end of the day, you the only person that know you best and know what you going through. So the best message to take, and how you need to handle yourself. So, hey, man, that's just the world that we live in now. And I think people need to come to the realization that this could definitely be a new normal, of people checking their mental health and, making decisions based off of their mental state at the time.
Yeah. And I think to piggyback off that, I think it all be a new normal for people to also use it as an excuse, and for us to not never be able to decipher, and everybody just using it, and it could be real and it could be just an excuse, because honestly, who's to say? The way the optics look, it looked like she wanted to lean on that because she did bad in a stunt. So it's just like, that's what Darnell's saying. It's like, if you said that off the rip, you know what I'm saying? The family and not having the fans really fuck with you, and you pulled out in the beginning, that's cool. But for you to like jeopardize the team's points, you know what I'm saying, and then be like, no, I'm out. I'm not gonna ride it out with my team because I'm mentally fucked up. This is like, damn. And then now you got these girls mentally fucked up because they can now not compete with Simone Biles. You know what I'm saying? So now I'm thinking about their mental health. Is they gonna fuck around? And so it's just it's just like, really, what you said when you started off, there's really no parameters to judge. That's what makes this fucked up, is that, like, we can't say that she was lying. We can't say that she was telling the truth, bro. We really just, gotta take her word for it. You know what I mean?
Take people at face value, because I could see if there were lesser players that were making these instances, but for the most part, the people that have come out and stated about mental health, if you think about it, the first athletes who have kind of been brought to the forefront of it, DeMar DeRozan, perennial all-star in his own right. I don't know if I wouldn't say he's a first ballot Hall of Famer by any means, but it's debatable that he's maybe when it's all said and done. And he still got some, history to write, but who's to say he doesn't get in the Hall of Fame? Kevin Love, you can almost ink him down for the Hall of Fame, gold medalist, champion, perennial all-star, walking 20 and 10 machine, especially early portion of career. So you've had prominent players of stature that come out and say that, hey, I deal with this. This is something that throws me off of my game and quite frankly messes with my personal life. It messes with my professional life as well. So I think these type and these caliber of players, it's important that they express it. So the smaller statured players within that realm could maybe have a leg to stand on and be like, hey, I ain't right either, but you probably won't see them come out as much. And I'll say this, and I'm going to let you go, Chris. I know you want to make a point. The smaller players, I don't believe, if it's fair or not, that's debatable. I don't believe they really have a leg to stand on in that front, because they're easily replaceable, right? You tell the coach, hey, man, I ain't fit to play. Well, shit, your ass probably wouldn't get minutes. No way you weren't going to get in until somebody got hurt, or, we were doing call-ups from a lesser league, or we going deep into the bench on a rotation. So you're replaceable. So the time you're not a starter, you're a bench warmer, quite literally, and this your dream in the league, you probably don't feel like you even got the room to say that, right? Which one could argue that fucks with your mental health too, because I don't feel like I have the freedom to do that, because if I do, I'm one in the number, relatively speaking. I'm more readily replaceable than a DeMar DeRozan or a Naomi Osaka or the GOAT herself, Simone Biles.
Yeah, so I just want to clarify a couple of things that I'm not saying, and then what I am saying. I'm not saying that we should not believe people, and I'm not saying that folks are using this as an excuse. What I am saying is, just like, yes, somebody can sprain their ankle, somebody can break their wrist, somebody can pull their hamstring, right? You can have mental issues. That's clear. What I'm saying is, just like we hold those players responsible and say, hey, if you pull your hamstring, if you break your wrist, if you sprain your ankle, it is your job to get into the training room, to do all the things that are necessary to make sure that you can get back to the field of court of play. It's the same thing with your mental health. You can't wait till after the game, during the media session, during the middle of the performance, to say, hey, you know what, I'm not mentally right. Because it is your job to get mentally right. That is all I'm saying. We need to hold these athletes accountable, just like we hold them accountable with their physical stuff, mentally as well. You need to be held accountable to whatever you need to do to get mentally right to perform. You must do that.
And to piggyback off Christian, like, taking care of your mental health, like, that doesn't have to be dressed in like shut up and figure it out or like will it through. Like, taking care of your mental health can simply be, I'm going to take some time away from the game and go on vacation and just like focus on me, focus on Simone Biles or whatever the case may be. Like, let your support system help and try to like cultivate you to like, yo, you don't have to worry about this. Like, take some time off. Like, you know, I forget who the athlete was, but like she actually got like diagnosed with like overtraining. So, you know, so the mental health, as most athletes, like Isaac was saying, who are coming out talking about mental health, who are at the top of their game, those same athletes who are at the top of their game will tell you that the sport itself is 90% mental and 10% physical, which is all the more reason for like athletes to be selfish about taking care of you and not always, you know, dedicating yourself to media obligations or endorsement deals. Shout out to one of my dogs, Mr. Joel, who I was talking to about that earlier, you know, and just talking about how sometimes like it may not even necessarily be the game itself. It just may be athletes spreading themselves thin outside of the game with so many types of responsibilities and sponsorships and endorsement deals and so on and so forth. So like my only fear with like the mental health conversation is that like I fear somebody out there would use it in vain and not really be messed up mentally. That's like one of my fears. There's no rule book to how to, there may be, there's no rule book. There's no one specific rule book on how to deal with mental health as an athlete. So sometimes I know it does come across taboo of like, you just did bad and now it's mental health. Like, why did you need to like perform bad for like you to decide not to play? You know what I'm saying? I in a perfect world, we would like for that person to be more in tune with themselves and know they're not ready to compete. But you know, being an athlete and feeling like you don't want to let people down, you want to at least try and put your best foot forward out there and see what happens. Maybe that was the case with Simone Biles. I don't know if this is pushing the conversation forward or if it's being redundant. Forgive me if it's being redundant, but like, how much of a differentiation do y'all think there is with like mental health and like just like lack of confidence? You know, so like if a person has a lack of confidence and that's why they're not performing, like, is that a probable cause to say I have a mental health issue, or is it just like, bro, you're just not confident right now? Figure it out.
Yeah, I would put that all in the same basket. Anything in between the ears, that all goes into the same basket. And so, you know, there are different ways to gain confidence. There are different ways to deal with depression. There are different ways to deal with anxiety. There are resources out there for you to help you figure out how to deal with whatever your mental health issue is at the time, right? Books have been written on this. Though there's not one, books have been written on this, right? To be able to get there. There are people who this is all they do is work with high performing people, especially athletes, to help them get mentally ready. If you are not utilizing that, I'm sorry, I can't take, my mental health is not there, right? So, that I'll just say, hey, you didn't use the resources.
Izzo, I don't know if this is a fair question to you. Obviously, forego it if it's not. But with you obviously being like stern on the fact that like, yo, ain't nobody got no jurisdiction to say whether or not a person is lying about their mental health. Can you fathom a scenario in your head that would make you personally question if a person is like using mental health as a scapegoat?
To not take a too critical approach to it, I would definitely say, because my perspective is so from an empathetic and an understanding one, that I don't feel like, I feel as though who am I to say that you're lying or, now if you are, I mean, that's a coward approach, but it's like there isn't a barometer to gauge whether or not somebody's mentally there or not. It literally comes down to, you got to take that athlete's word for it. That's just how it is. Cause it's like, we've had so many instances in the past where things could have been chalked up now post that situation that, one could have deemed like, man, if they maybe could have got a break, or maybe somebody could have talked to them, or maybe they needed to deplug and, maybe XYZ could have been prevented, because Lord forbid somebody goes and harms themselves or harms others because they're feeling mentally defeated, deflated, and or just, mentally at war with themselves, or just their mental health is, very. So to answer your question, I don't really foresee a situation right now that I would deem that somebody would be faking. But just playing devil's advocate here, just to kind of answer the question, if there ever was one, it could be called into question after.
It has happened.
After the Simone Biles situation, I think that would be like a perfect situation for it. But because of her stature and who she is and what she means, not only to the USA team, but just the Olympics, period, and being one of the most decorated Olympians ever in the history of mankind, right? Like, I think she's earned the benefit of the doubt, to say the least, right? Like, Simone Biles isn't known to be a quitter. You don't get this far in life or even in your profession for being a quitter, or for that fact, being a liar, right? Like, who's to say that she isn't going through that? Because one could say, like, she had the whole GOAT outfit ready. Like, she was ready at a certain point, but maybe something happened in between the lines, or traveling there, or just surveying the circumstances and just the environment of what she was around and engulfed in, that it just wasn't palatable for her moving forward. So, tough thing to say, man.
I'm gonna read this. I'm gonna read an Instagram post again for just the listeners riding in their cars. And Darnell Holder thought that she was about to say it was already somebody who has that, like, kind of fake the whole mental health situation. Simone Biles on her Instagram one day ago, before she decided to stop competing in the finals, posted on her Instagram. It wasn't an easy day or my best, but I got through it. I truly do feel like I have the weight of the world on my shoulders at times. I know I brush it off and make it seem like pressure doesn't affect me, but damn, sometimes it's hard. Ha, 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 ha. The Olympics is no joke, but I'm happy my family was able to be with me. They mean the world to me. And that was after she made that post.
Probably wouldn't have put the ha in there, low key. Because, I mean, I guess she's trying to make light of it even still. with bringing it
trying to say like I'm not complaining, but I am, or like
yeah, but once to say that could be a cover up to like, hey, you know, people laugh to hide their pain, you know, so that could be a subtle cry for, hey guys, I'm mentally going through it. I don't feel like I got anybody to confide in to, you know, to kind of shed or share some of this burden with, and you know, hey. More power to her for taking that stance if she feel like she needs to step away.
Black Peace.
Yes, sir. I was just getting a little more detail on it. Name of the player, I believe, was a Notre Dame linebacker, and the name was Monty Teo. And it's not the exact same thing, but it was just that same thing of personal situations. Like he said his grandmother and his girlfriend died from cancer and turned out not to be even exist. So it's like you said, it's one of the things where you're going to have to roll the dice, but at the end of the day, everything always comes to light. So there has been a situation of that. And I think that's what makes people a little bit, you know, a little bit like hesitant when people do say that. It's like, well, there's people out here making whole ex-girlfriends that died, you know, that didn't even exist in the records, period. So it just people don't like to be fucked with the first time. People don't like it when people spoil it for everybody because then everybody's on their toes. So I feel like that kind of made this situation just a little bit of unconsciously everybody's a little woke to it. They said, nah, you ain't getting fooled me once back in 2013. Nah, not again. You ain't about to fool me on some like, oh, you got some mental stuff going on, so we have to feel sympathetic. I feel like that maybe if that didn't happen, a couple other events that were like, you know, more on the integrity side, they may have been a little bit more sympathetic, but people fucked over the system before, so therefore people just a little bit more on the edge. And they gonna be like, well, mental, we ain't seeing it, we ain't buying it. You know what I'm saying? So It is what it is.
Also, too, in the sports world, we just do not take kindly to what may be an excuse. If somebody came out after a game, hey, I didn't play well because I was physically hurt for whatever reason, we don't accept that. We do not. We have never been taught to accept that. Though it could be something real. Hey, your leg could be broken, and we're not there. We're not there playing through the pain and all this stuff. We're not there doing that, right? But don't come and tell us that's why you didn't play well.
Nobody cares.
That's how I feel about James Harden. So I feel you.
We're not going to accept it, right? That we could be wrong on that, maybe, but it's not going to change because that's the beauty of sports. Hey, we come, we want you to perform. If you don't perform, we hate you. If you perform well, we love you. It is what it is. That's a part of the deal, right? So when it comes to mental health, yes, is mental health something serious? Yes, something we should take serious. Something we should take so serious that we should handle it before the game. But we cannot allow that to slide. If we're not going to allow physical pain to slide as a reason for you not being able to perform, we can't allow mental either, because then you know, the door's open now. Oh, hey, for any reason, hey, we can accept now that you didn't perform. No, you're out there to perform. That's what the critics are here for. That's what the fans are here for. You're out there to perform.
Bro, I'm sorry, I gotta say this. It's almost like Lamar Jackson being like, it's the Chiefs. What the fuck you expect? I was mentally out of it. It's like they was coming at me from every which angle. I'm sorry, it's the goddamn Chiefs. I mentally was not there. It's like, bro, like, we don't want to hear that after you like let these niggas go on 40, bro. Like, I'm sorry, like, if you would have kicked that shit before and let somebody else play the game, I mean, cool. Y'all get kicked y'all ass by 40. Yeah, Lamar Jackson said he couldn't do it, but you don't try to go out there.
Hey, with that, actually, I have a point where Izzo would not have accepted mental health as an excuse. If Bill O'Brien would have came out after the Chiefs playoff game and said that he was dealing with mental health, Izzo would not have accepted that one.
He had to be though.
Being though that I'm a pretty straight shooter and I'm a pretty consistent guy when it comes to my takes. So though my emotional appeal at the time was very into the Texans, more so into Deshaun Watson, though I wouldn't have liked it from a fan's perspective, mentally if he was dealing with something.
Doctor it up.
Hey, I'm letting you know my emotional appeal to the team. I wouldn't have accepted it in the moment, but would I would have respected it? Of course. I'm going to hate the shit out of it and not like it and call him pussy. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be like, whatever he dealing with, I don't wish, mental health on anybody, bro. So if you're struggling with it, get the help you need. Come right back to being your old mediocre self. Should have been got rid of his ass, but, to kind of oblige you, I probably wouldn't have been so accepting of it in the moment, but from a broader view, looking back at it in hindsight, I would have respected his choice to do so.
Yeah, that was the AFC Championship game, right? That wasn't the AFC Championship game, was it?
Yeah, nigga, take a couple days, nigga. Take it indefinitely. Nigga,
good.
Just leave.
He's good all the way up into the AFC Championship game. Blows the lead, let the Chiefs win, and be like, "Hey, y'all, I ain't gonna lie to y'all. This whole time, battling up through the playoffs, these tough teams, man. This mentally."
If he would have lost it. If he would have lost to the Patriots, when that was the excuse and everything would have happened the same exact way, I would accept it if it was the Patriots. Because it's Bill O'Brien. It wasn't
Virginia. So yeah, that wasn't an AFC game. That was
but not against the fucking Chiefs, though. I mean, Andy Reid ain't earned that level of mental fuckery. His players do, but not him. So yeah.
Hey, I did want to make this point because my guy Jason Whitlock did go off on Simone Biles, and I think he was kind of wrong.
You gotta cut back your doses on that guy.
That's my guy, man. That's my guy. But I'm gonna go at him. I'm gonna go at him right now. I think that he needs to understand because he made a comparison between her and whatever stresses that she's dealing with, and Jesse Owens and the stresses that he dealt with during the Berlin Olympics, right in front of Hitler, right? There was threats to his life and everything, and he went out there and he won 2 gold medals, and so he tried to compare their two stresses. I would say to my brother, I think that you might need to have a conversation with Jonathan Haidt and read the Calling of the American Mind. The ability to handle different stressors for any of us today, right, is a lot different than those back there, than people ages beyond us or ages before us. Right. So I think my brother Whitlock just went a little too far.
Right, they were way better at handling.
And Jason Whitlock is a fat, unathletic fuck, and I wouldn't let him or Harold on too much.
Play college football. He's on football.
So I just want to be transparent.
Again, fat and unathletic.
One, I respect mental health. Like I say, my biggest fear is just someone who is using it as a scapegoat. Yes, we can't properly rate that. I get that. Two, in no way, shape, or form am I perfect, or I have not dealt with mental health issues. I mean, if I sometimes feel like I got too much on my plate, like I start stressing. So like that be my mental health breakdowns. I'm no different than anybody else out there dealing with it. We didn't touch on it last week because I think the NBA Finals overshadowed it, but I think it also fits perfect in terms of talking about mental health with Richard Sherman, right? And what's recently taken place with him. The allegations, but the 911 call from his wife, him being taken to jail, him getting into the altercation with his father-in-law, and so on and so forth. And like I look at that situation from afar to know that like, okay, we've never known Richard Sherman to have any behavior come close to resembling this throughout his career. A graduate from Stanford. Well-spoken, educated individual, and you see that situation, it's like that seems like a mental health issue of someone who may be like flirting with the idea of like retirement and not having the football be a part of his life like it's always been. You know what I'm saying? So like mental health, I mean, like it can affect it. The results, the cause and effect of it varies in a multitude of ways. But yes, but I do respect the struggles of mental health, and we definitely would encourage everybody out there to like be deliberate, be unapologetic, and be selfish about taking care of yourself and your mental. And
don't give weight to what we say. I agree with Sean Hall on that one.
True indeed, especially, well, yeah, true indeed. So yeah, whether you, just like the conversation, you know, whether you hate or love whether or not players decide not to play or compete or withdraw from competitions because of mental health, whether you hate it or love it, you got to respect it. Just like this show, whether you hate the conversation, love the conversation will, at the end of the day, help you respect the game. This is the Respect the Game podcast. We will see you beautiful people next week.